Attorney General Eric Holder has urged for calm and order in Ferguson, but he has not yet announced if he intends to make Darren Wilson's case a federal one. There are only a few scenarios which might qualify Darren Wilson for further court proceedings at the federal level, most importantly, civil rights violations. Eric Guster is with us. He's an attorney in matters criminal and civil, and he's going to walk us through what might happen. So what do you see happening with Eric Holder before he leaves the Department of Justice?
Well, Eric Holder wants his entire investigation to be done. He wants to determine if Michael Brown's civil rights were violated or anyone else's civil rights were violated, because the Department of Justice is investigating not only Darren Wilson, but the entire Ferguson Police Department to see if there were violations in reference to police stops, police brutality, over-policing, and other issues that could lead to a civil rights violation.
But the grand jury exonerated Darren Wilson, and the feds were sitting there through every step of the process.
They exonerated him of the murder of Michael Brown.
Yeah.
However,
so how are you going to prove that Darren Wilson somehow violated Michael Brown's civil rights if it's a higher threshold?
It is a higher threshold. It's a much higher threshold. However, if they bring in evidence to show where there was a pattern and practice of him assaulting young black men, or a pattern of practice of him taking advantage of those situations, then it could lead to a civil rights violation. And it's very rare that it does.
Yeah.
However, it's been done.
But
the district attorney here has said that he will release all of the records, and folks have been reviewing them. Yeah. Does that prejudice the federal investigation at all? Is that something we've seen before? How unprecedented is this?
Well, it's very rare for them to release the records. However, it does not prejudice the federal investigation, because the federal investigation was done parallel to the state's investigation. They were investigating people around the same time. So the feds, they have their information already. More than likely, they have most of their information.
Are they using the same evidence that the grand jury saw?
I'm not sure, but I would suspect that they interviewed the same people at different times. Because if you investigate and interview people at different times, then you can compare their notes from the state side to the federal side to see if their stories were the same or if something changed. And there may be different rounds of questions depending on who was investigating.
Yeah, and according to what I've read from the Ferguson information that the grand jury had, it was inconsistent witness testimony that ended up helping out Officer Wilson.
There was inconsistent testimony, and that would happen in any case.
Yeah.
If something happened in this room and the four of us saw it, some of our accounts would be a little bit different.
Yeah.
However, when you have a crowd like that, you will have a segment of people who won't tell the truth. That's just a fact. There will be some people who will lie. However, you have to get down to the meat of it to say, this is what we believe the most. And that should have been a question for the jury, which is what a lot of people were asking for. Send this case to trial, let a preliminary hearing be held so that we can actually see how the questions are asked, what questions are asked. Because although the evidence was given...
So you want to see it go to trial on the federal level? You want to see Darren Wilson put on trial for violating Michael Brown's civil rights? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying that. I wish that Bob McCulloch, sorry.
Yeah.
I wish that he recused himself, first of all, from the case. He was too close to Darren Wilson to actually investigate this case.
Why? Because his dad was a cop?
No, because he worked with him. He was the prosecutor, and Darren Wilson was a police officer. They're together on prosecuting people who were arrested.
So you're saying in every grand jury investigation where cops and DAs are both involved, that the DA should recuse themselves?
In many of them, they should, because they work together.
I mean, it just seems like the grand jury process is broken. I mean, this just doesn't really seem like a system that functions particularly well. It's not transparent. It doesn't work.
It's not transparent, especially in cases just like this, where it's questions of racism. There's question of even classism in reference to Ferguson, people being stopped unfairly because of their race, which the Ferguson Police Department is being investigated for that. Those reasons are why he should have stepped aside, just to protect the integrity of the investigation and put the trust back in the public to show we're trying to be fair, we want to be fair, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that you all see this. Well,
it sounds like you're trying to do everything you can to engineer the outcome that you want.
No, it's about engineering fairness and clarity, because the grand jury process is in secret.
Yeah.
Although we have transcripts, we don't know how the questions were asked. You can ask the same question and put emphasis on different words, and it's a different question.
I mean, but that's how we come about indictments in this country. Do you want to just scrap the grand jury process altogether?
Oh, absolutely not. But that is why.
Only when you don't like the outcome of
No, I said this before the outcome was made. Because in this case, I knew that with that prosecutor and Darren Wilson being the officer, it was too close. So if the people did not get what they wanted, they're going to cry foul. And it's a very fair.
The fact that that prosecutor released as much information, meaning all of it, as soon as he did, meaning the moment that he announced it, I think that speaks to his transparency.
I don't think so, because we don't know how these questions were answered, how those questions were asked. I read the transcripts last night. Those were softball questions asked of Darren Wilson. And if a person is being investigated for murder, they need someone in there to cross-examine him. Let's talk about your inconsistencies. Let's talk about if you had to actually shoot this unarmed kid and kill him.
We have to go. We're up against a hard break. Come back, Eric. Guster, it's nice to see you.
Oh, great to see you too.
All right. Well, we're going to have plenty of questions for you. Thank you so much. All right.